Ludwig van Beethoven was born in the city of Bonn, which was in the Electorate of Cologne, part of the Holy Roman Empire, on December 17, 1770. His family was not rich, and his father, Johann van Beethoven, worked as a musician. Ludwig's mother, Maria Magdalena, took care of him and his younger brothers. Beethoven was the eldest child in his family, and his father had big dreams for him. He wanted his son to become a famous musician. Beethoven showed his talent at a very young age. He began to learn music and play instruments such as the piano and violin when he was still a child. His father made sure that Beethoven practiced every day, hoping to turn him into another musical genius like Mozart. When Beethoven was just a little boy, his father started to show him how to play the piano. He worked him very hard, sometimes for hours a day. Beethoven's father even lied about his age, telling people that Beethoven was younger than he really was, so he could show him off as a child prodigy. Beethoven's early life was difficult because of his father's strictness, but this hard work helped him develop his musical skills. By the time Beethoven was a teenager, his playing was already exceptional. He started performing for people in his hometown, and soon, his talent was recognized by musicians and other important people. At the age of 17, Beethoven was already performing in concerts, and he began to compose his own music. His first compositions were for the piano, but he also wrote music for other instruments and small groups of musicians. He became famous in Bonn for his talents, but Beethoven wanted more. He dreamed of becoming a great composer, and he knew that Vienna was the place where he could make that dream come true. In 1792, when Beethoven was 22 years old, he left his hometown and moved to Vienna, a city known for its rich musical history and the great composers who lived there. At that time, Vienna was the center of music in Europe. Many famous musicians like Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Joseph Haydn had lived there, and Beethoven wanted to join them. In Vienna, Beethoven quickly made a name for himself. He started to play his music in front of important people in the city. He was a talented pianist, but more importantly, he began composing symphonies, sonatas, and chamber music. Beethoven's music was different from what people had heard before. It was bold, powerful, and full of emotion. While many composers wrote music that was pleasant to listen to, Beethoven's music was more complex. It made people think deeply and feel strongly. He often used his music to express his personal feelings, whether it was joy, sadness, anger, or hope. Beethoven's work soon became popular in Vienna, and he began to earn money from his compositions and performances. His music was more than just entertainment. It was a reflection of his soul and his emotions. Beethoven's life was not easy, however. Around the time he was 30 years old, he began to lose his hearing. At first, it was only a small problem, but as time passed, his hearing became worse and worse. This was a terrible blow to Beethoven because music was his life. He relied on his hearing to compose and perform. Many people believed that his career was over, but Beethoven refused to give up. He found ways to continue composing music even as his hearing failed him. He would sit at the piano, feeling the vibrations in the floor, and he would compose music in his mind. Beethoven was determined not to let his deafness stop him from creating music. As Beethoven's hearing worsened, his personal life became more difficult. He often felt isolated and alone. He could not hear the world around him, and he struggled to communicate with people. Beethoven was also becoming more and more frustrated with his condition. He wrote letters to his friends, expressing his sadness and anger. In one letter, he even considered ending his life, but he realized that his love for music kept him going. It gave him the strength to keep fighting, even when everything seemed dark. Despite his struggles, Beethoven continued to compose some of the most beautiful and powerful music ever written. His music became deeper and more complex as he went through difficult times. Some of his most famous works were written after he became almost completely deaf. His Symphony No. 5, with its famous four notes da 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 dum, is one of the most recognizable pieces of music in the world. The strength of those four notes represents Beethoven's own strength and determination. Another one of his masterpieces is Symphony No. 9, which includes the beautiful Ode to Joy. This piece is full of happiness, hope, and unity, and it has been performed in many different countries for important celebrations. Beethoven's music became more than just a way of expressing personal emotions. It became a way of connecting people. His music spoke to people's hearts, regardless of their background or language. Many of his works have been performed in concert halls all over the world, and his influence on music continues today. Beethoven was not just a great composer, he was a pioneer who changed the way people thought about music. He pushed boundaries and explored new ways of creating sound. His works were so powerful that they affected how people felt about life itself. Beethoven showed that music could be more than just something to listen to. It could be a way to express the deepest parts of the human experience. In the last years of his life, Beethoven's health continued to worsen. His deafness became complete, and he had trouble taking care of himself. He lived a lonely life in his small apartment in Vienna. Even though he had many friends and admirers, Beethoven kept to himself. But despite his difficulties, he continued to write music. His final compositions, like his late string quartets and the Ninth Symphony, are some of the most important works in the history of classical music. They are full of beauty, complexity, and emotion, and they show the depth of Beethoven's genius. Beethoven passed away on March 26, 1827, at the age of 56. Thousands of people attended his funeral in Vienna, and his death marked the end of an era in classical music. He was remembered as one of the greatest composers of all time, and his music continues to inspire people around the world. Today, his compositions are performed by orchestras and musicians everywhere, and they are celebrated for their beauty, power, and timeless quality. Although Beethoven's life was filled with struggles and challenges, his music has had an everlasting impact on the world. His story is a reminder that no matter what obstacles we face in life, we can still achieve great things if we do not give up. Beethoven's love for music and his determination to keep creating, even when it seemed impossible, inspire people to this day. His music shows us that beauty and strength can come from the most difficult of circumstances, and that we can all find ways to share our talents and dreams with the world, no matter the challenges we face.